From blueprints to booming businesses, from groundbreaking to grand openings, this is Beyond the Blueprint. Join host Brad Howard as he takes you behind the scenes of growth and development in Mooresville, Lake Norman, and beyond. We're talking with the decision makers, the planners, the visionaries shaping our communities, giving exclusive insight into what happens before, during, and after projects that define our region. The future is being built right now. Let's go beyond the blueprint.
Good Friday afternoon. Thank you to those tuning in on the radio at 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM, on social media, on WSICnews.com, on demand, and on the WSIC News app. I'm your host, Brad Howard, and we have a great show today. Today we are joined by none other than Charlotte radio legend, Chuck Boozer. Chuck, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me here, Brad. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
No, I appreciate it. So, we'll just jump right in and just want to ask you, how does it feel to be recognized as a radio icon?
Wow. Well, my daughter and I have had this conversation, to tell you the truth, because when I was on Bo and Beth's show down on BT, she called me, she said, Daddy, they're referring to you as an icon. And I said, when you hang around long enough, they start calling you all kind of names, and that's one of them. I don't know. I don't think so. I've been here a long time. I'm 70 years old. I started doing this when I was about 17. So this is about 52, 53 years. Is that right? God, yes. Wow. And I wasn't a math guy. I wasn't a math guy in school. So, it's pleasant to be recognized. I'm probably one of the luckiest guys on the planet right now at this age to be able to do this. I'm on the air every day at a station up in Hickory. I think you can pick it up down here, in addition to WSIC, I believe. In addition to that, you can listen to us. And that's at 1290 AM, 102.3 FM, and from anywhere at WHKY.com. And I do 3 hours a day live. They built me a studio. I live down in York County, and they built me a personal studio. And I have guests on that I've known for years, Ramona Holloway and Harriet Coffey and, Jeff Kent and everybody. And they sit in this little studio, and they say, Chuck. And I say, how'd you get this? And I say, I do not know. The radio god smiled on the boozers. This is a 50,000 watt stick. There's 3 in the state of North Carolina, and I'm on one of them. Wow. So if you're going to play, you might as well play and get to. So at this age, I'm lucky. I'm a very lucky guy. I can almost do this in my sleep. I still love doing this every day. We talk about, it's a conservative talk radio station. We have Clay and Buck, and we have Sean Hannity in the afternoons. We do a little bit of politics. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so we don't get too deep, but we do have the Fox Stringers, Evan Brown, Jeff Manasso, Tanya J. Powers. We talk with them from time to time. And it's a show just about anything and everything. We do all the festivals and all the local stuff through Catawba County, reaching down into Iredell County, et cetera, et cetera. So, I started doing this in 1973, and here it is in 2025, and I'm still getting to do it. So I'm a lucky guy. And I'm still married to the same woman. So, lucky guy. So on that, for 53 years, what was it like the first time? I mean, I know for me, it's only been a few months, but the first time behind the mic. Well, funny you should say that. A whole different game and stuff, because it wasn't like it was today here. I had 3 turntables, 2 tape machines, 4 cartridge machines in the room with me and stuff. And you ran that board on an old RCA board in front of you and stuff. And you went from one element to the other and stuff. You had to queue up the records, and when you queue up the records, you queue up to where it starts and back it up about half a turn. And when you hit that turntable, it instantly starts. And if you do it wrong, it's what. But so you had to do that. I had to do my own news and stuff. I probably sucked. When I was first started. But I cut my feet when I was about 17, 18 years old. I cut my feet. But I cut my teeth, and I was on the radio overnight in Phoenix, Arizona on KOOL FM, which was owned by Tom Chauncey, Gene Autry, the singing cowboy. It was an AM/FM CBS helicopter and a TV affiliate, big one there in Arizona. And so that's where I learned radio and stuff. That was 52, 53 years ago. I was on every night. I was making $1.10 an hour, minimum wage.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And during that period, I know that there was a lot of freedom and experimentation on the airwaves. So, and you were no stranger to some of that controversy, right?
I don't think I was. I don't think I got into the personality side of being on the air. I was just a music jock and in and out of records and stuff, and kind of cut up and be fun. And then, excuse me, when I went to mornings, when I came out of Atlanta back in 1984, and I was filling in for the morning guy in Atlanta at WQXI, and Gary McKee. And I learned how to do the mornings from him, and that's where your money is to do the morning show and morning drive and stuff. I think Gary was responsible for about $16-18 million of revenue a year. It was owned by Jefferson Pilot at the time. That was the Atlanta station.
Right.
And we had up here was WBT and WBCY 107.9. So, but I learned how to do radio from that. And then I got into doing the mornings, and off we went. And so you're allowed much more freedom to do that and stuff. And especially if you're ringing the bell. We came up in 84 from Atlanta, and Jerry Buckner was my comedy guy. Jerry had a song called Pac-Man Fever back in 82. And that was all about the game and stuff like that. And Jerry was a one-hit wonder, and he was my comedy guy. And he said in 1985, he said, he looked around this radio station. He said, Booze, you're on your way here. You're going to be a big star. And I said, really? He said, God, it's all heading this way. And he was right. A lot of the things did fall into place, and we pulled double numbers and stuff at the time. We had a 10, 11 share when people had 7s and 8s. There was no John Boy and Billy, and there was no Bob and Sherry at the time. So we were the only game in town, per se.
I know the formative years for me as a kid. So listening to you in the Charlotte market.
Should we tell everybody how long I've known you? What were you, about 7 when we met?
I was young. So
yeah.
We were both young. We were both young.
Well, I think you were. Weren't you about 7 or 8 when we first met and stuff? I can tell the story how we met.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Let's go ahead with that.
Back about 1985, I was in town here from Atlanta. Lenny and I had moved up with the kids. And with one kid at the time, and we're on the radio, and of course racing was so big, NASCAR was so big, and they were putting 175,000 people at the races at Charlotte Motor Speedway at the May and October race. It was huge. And so I was into it, stuff like that. And I said one day on the air, somebody said, you going to the race? I'd been here about a year, and so somebody said, you going to the race? And I said, no, I didn't get any tickets. And Rick called the radio station. Your dad called the radio station and said, hey, I heard Chuck doesn't have any tickets. I'd like for him to be my guest in our suite. Ooh. And so everybody said, you're going to the race. You're going. I said, let's see what happens here. Let's see if this is really true, if he shows up. And your dad showed up the next day on Friday and gave me a couple of tickets. And we were friends ever since. And you were a little bitty boy. This was a long time ago. This is about 1985, 1986. I know how old you were then. And your dad was a wonderful friend to me. He was a wonderful man. And I certainly had my ups and downs and highs and lows. And your dad remained my constant friend all through that. And I will never forget him for that. Your dad's an exceptional guy. God, I would never write the story like this. Like I look at the thing from the church service and stuff. He just passed, in case those who don't know. But what a foresight guy and just had visions and stuff for this county and developer and everything else. And he was a smart guy. And your daddy was a nice guy. On top of everything, he was a nice man. He was he was a classy guy. There won't be another Rick Howard for a while. There will be. His name is Brad Howard. He's going to have big shoes to fill. But your dad was a wonderful guy, Brad. God, he was just a stand-up guy. I know people who know Rick throughout this area and stuff like that. So exit 31, baby. We had lunch a while back and talked about buying a helicopter. And I thought, good story, Rick. But funny stuff. We will miss him. What a legacy he's left in this county.
Oh, well, thank you, Chuck. On that, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. And I'll have to dry up my eyes a little bit. So thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, you bet.
And we're back on Beyond the Blueprint with Charlotte radio legend, Chuck Boozer. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, every time, please. Yes. Make sure. That's underlined in caps, isn't it? Yeah,
it'll be bold and flashing if you watch it online. So, so no.
Oh, wow.
So no, just, keep going. No, very, very, very nice words before the segment break. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So talking about Charlotte in the market. The listeners in the Charlotte community, what surprised you most about them? And coming from Phoenix and Atlanta, any cultural shock?
I don't know. I didn't when I came to Charlotte in '84. I was 27 years old. McKee asked me in Atlanta when Gary had been there for 17, 18 years in Atlanta, and he was making about $600,000 a year. I felt like he knew what he was doing. So he asked me before I left, he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to do you. I mean, I'm going to, based upon what I've learned as you as my mentor." And he said, "What are you going to do? What type of material are you going to do? You going to do any blue stuff or any racy stuff?" And I said, "I don't know. I doubt it. I mean, that's kind of not me." And he said, "Well, let me tell you this." He said, "If you'll do material that everybody in the car can listen to, you'll have everybody in the car." And he was right. So I think you are in the Bible Belt, but we never wanted to have the question, "Mom, what's that mean?" And so we weren't squeaky clean. We weren't K-Love, but we weren't, we were just kind of fun and stuff. We made a mistake one time and talked about Santa Claus.
What happened to Santa Claus?
The myth thereof. Oh my God! Don't ever say Santa Claus isn't real. Good God Almighty! Good God! Oh my God! A few things like that, but got carried away and stuff. But we just the idea of the show became, I think, that we had you. I knew that our TSL, time spent listening, was about 17 minutes, and so we knew that we had you in morning drive for about 17 minutes. And Gary Brobst, the general manager at the time, said, "Do what you can in 17 minutes." Dan Valley was a consultant, Valley Consulting and stuff. So our goal was to take your mind off the crap every day that everybody was going through while driving into work, and to think about something else. And nobody was ever funnier than the people on the phone. And they started messing with us. And once they started messing with you and stuff, it was phenomenal. We had the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey clowns, Chris and Chris. And when they appear somewhere, by the way, even at 6:37 in the morning, they have to come in as clowns. If they're Barnum and Bailey clowns, they cannot appear out of costume. So they're as clowns. And they got stuck in traffic, and she called. They were married. They live on the train in those days, Chris and Chris. And we had them on several times, and she was real goofy. "Oh, hi, Chuck," And so she did this and said, "We're going to be late." And I said, "Where are you?" And she said, "Well, we're in traffic somewhere." And I said, "Well," and she said, "We're in a limousine, and it's got a sunroof." And I said, "Give me a traffic report." And she stood up and did a traffic report. And just stuff like that, pretty phenomenal and stuff.
It was. And there's
it's hard to plan that kind of stuff. It just starts to happen and roll in with you and stuff. The moon and the stars line up, I suppose.
The moon and the stars line up. Now, you did have a skit that I was reminded of where you, and you have to do the voices, the cat catcher, right? The game where you jump out of the airplane.
Yes. We had Cat Chasers.
Cat Chasers.
Bill Hoger was a friend of Jerry Buckner's. Bill was a locksmith out of Atlanta, and Bill could do voices, and he just did character voices. Did Bill? Bill was an old country guy, and he did Randy Travis. He did a real, before Randy's stroke and stuff. Anyway, and so Bill came up with this idea, and we put it before the air. He said, "Chuck, you got this. First of all, you got to be a skydiver. And you get you a bag of cats, about 5 cats. You get you an airplane and stuff. And you get you about 5 guys, 5, 6 guys up there. Everybody's a paratrooper, a parachuter. And you get up there and you get about 15, 17,000 feet, and you let the cats out. And then everybody goes out after them with their own bag. And the person that gets the most cats before they get to the ground wins." And we went on the air with it like that and presented it pretty truthful and stuff. And oh my God, the Society for the Prevention of the Cruelty of Animals called. Everybody thought we were real. And, that's awful. Oh my God. It was, so, we were real tongue in cheek on stuff. We used to do a bogus rumor of the day.
You did.
We used to do a bogus rumor of the day. I would have from time to time, even before that, we would have a character on, and Jerry would be just some guy with a big voice that had a bill before the City Council of Charlotte or the Legislature of Charlotte to ban motor racing in the city in the state of North Carolina. It's stupid. It doesn't do anything. You go around the track for 500 miles, you end up at the same place. What good is that? And we were going to ban professional wrestling. Ric Flair called that day, scared Jerry to death. He said, "Oh my God, you think it's coming down here?" And I said, "I don't know." Rick kind of bought into it. God love the nature boy. And then we did have one that kind of got carried away. We did have a running bit called the bogus rumor of the day. And that bogus stands for fake or counterfeit. And we said that every time we said it. And we had done this 2 or 3 times. And a buddy in the chain, in the Easy Communications chain, Ken Cooper, out of New Orleans, B97, our station down there, had said that do this bit. This is a good running bit. I think we had done a 2-for-1 on something there, one of the grocery stores that was stupid or whatever. And then we did this one. Or if you call the airlines, you get a free trip, the bogus rumor of the day.
Oh, yeah.
And then we did this one. In 1987, the stock market fell 500 points. It was a big deal in 1987. We weren't at 45 or 46 like we are these days. That was a big jump, 500 down.
Yeah, Black Monday.
Tuesday, that was Black Monday.
Black Monday.
1987. On Tuesday, we went on the air with the bogus rumor of the day. And the bogus rumor of the day was that it looked like Republic Bank wouldn't open across the street from us. That was my bank. We had a little window about that big, and I thought, and I knew that John Stedman, the president of the bank, didn't believe in, he just didn't believe in radio advertising. I thought, and honest to God, I wasn't being smart ass, but I thought this is a good chance to show him the power of radio. And we started out about 6:05 in the morning, and about 9 o'clock, these 2 guys came in these little dark suits and stood in the lobby and went, they were listening to the speaker up in the ceiling, and I thought, this ain't going to be good. And that turned out not to be good. Here's the deal. You can't yell fire in the bank theater. And
No.
I did.
So when did you realize that the skit was going the wrong way?
About 9 o'clock that morning.
Nope.
About 9 o'clock that morning. We ran for it for a while. You know, a lady called about 8:20 and said, my daughter works across the street over there. And I said, ma'am, all I can tell you is it's 8:20 in the morning. I don't see anybody in the parking lot. Do you know why?
It's 8:20 in the morning.
The bank doesn't open at 30. But nobody was listening. Everybody was just, oh my gosh. So they were not happy about it at Republic Bank. And Peter Gilchrist had me arrested back in January of '88, about 2-3 months afterwards, and had me arrested and had me booked in Mecklenburg County, which was not funny at the time. And had to go downtown, and Sheriff Kidd came up and talked to the deputy and stuff, and he was mad. Remember Sheriff Kidd? Sheriff Kidd, big old country guy. Talk like this. He said, what he's in for? What's he in here for? And the deputy read him the code, and he said, get him booked to get him the hell out of here. We've had people actually committed crimes. And they were going to make an example out of me, which they should have. There is the Boozer Act, which is on the books now, which states that if you make a false statement against a bank, there must be malice intended. You can't just be a dumbass disc jockey, which I was. So they didn't prosecute me beyond that. Not too funny at the time. You know, I sold cars for John and Rick Hendrick for about 5-6 years. I learned how to sell cars from the Hendrick organization, Hendrick Automotive Group, and John's company. And a kid bought a car from me, and we were there about 2 or 3 hours. And he sat down in front of my desk to sign papers and stuff. And he saw my cards right there, and he said, "Are you Chuck Boozer, the guy that closed the bank?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "We've been together a couple hours." And he said, "Will you do me a favor?" And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Will you shake my hand?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why is this?" And he said, You were the subject. You were the topic of subject here, and my business master's of business class, and my professor's not going to believe this. He said, "Is it true what happened?" And I said, "Tell me your side." They pretty much in line with it and stuff. So anyway, yeah. So I guess you have to be arrested for something that you said on the radio. I got that in the repertoire now. Boy, it's got me a lot of gigs. No,
Hey.
Never. Howard Stern and I have a lot in common.
Hey, you know, we have a lot of politicians on the show, but I think you're the first one that actually has a bill named after them.
I've made the Boozer family so proud. I got to tell you that. It was, I was on Ramona Holloway's podcast, Hope, that she does. Ramona has left the radio world and is public relations for the Mint Museum down on Randolph. She's a great gal, great broadcaster. What a sweet lady and stuff. And she had me on her podcast, and she said, "Charles," call me Charles. She said, "Charles, you don't think you're a shock jock?" And I said, "That's a compliment, Ramona, but no, I never did." We didn't go in to do things that shock you. My wife has said, Lindy has said, "I'm sure people thought things that you did were kind of shocking, things you did, but we didn't have an agenda to let's see what this stirs up." We didn't really have the agenda to do that. I think we had bits that got carried away.
Yeah, you just wanted to make people laugh. So
Kind of be goofy. Yeah. There really wasn't malice intended. I don't know what that cost to get me out of that thing, but that cost some money. So, I worked at a radio station in Atlanta, WQXI 94Q in Atlanta. That was owned by Jefferson Pilot. And let me know time-wise. We good on time?
we have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. And so there was a guy roaming the hallways, and he had a notepad. And I finally said after about 2-3 weeks, I said, "Who's the guy with the notepad?" And they said, "Oh, well, he's a friend of Jerry. We call Jerry the big guy." And he's a friend of Jerry's. He's taking notes for a television show. And the television show was WKRP in Cincinnati. Baby, if you've ever wondered whatever became of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. And so that was Hugh Wilson, the creator of the show. It ran from, I don't know, 1978, 80 to 84. I think it ran about 3-4 years and stuff like that. A lot of the examples came out of the radio station where I was in Atlanta and stuff. We called our general manager, Jerry Blum, the big guy. That was Mr. Carlson's name on the series. I think there were a couple of jocks that were portrayed as Johnny Fever or Venus Flytrap or something like that. Herb Tarlick, the sales manager, was just like our sales manager, Clark Brown. We didn't have a Les Nessman, and we did not have a Jennifer at the front desk. Yikes. But a fun show to be part of, kind of in that way. And then my friend Jerry Buckner produced the theme by David Carlisle, who had the hit with it.
Very cool.
How's that?
Yeah. So which character were you?
I wasn't. I didn't make the show. They didn't. I'm not portrayed in there anyway. I was on my way.
You were on your way, but you were an inspiration for WKRP.
I was around the inspiration.
You were around the inspiration.
Quixie in Atlanta was a station, big enough station where people wanted to come through that station. Lionel Richie came by there. I mean, Lily Tomlin came by there. The stars wanted to come by there. Big station. If you got on that station, no matter who you were, a lot of people heard you. And so, met Lionel Richie a couple of times. Bertie Higgins, Key Lark. Just star after star after star. Gallagher came through there. Wow.
Wow. This is Brad Howard, and we will be right back. And we're back on Beyond the Blueprint with Charlotte radio legend. And I will keep calling him Charlotte radio legend, Chuck Boozer. So welcome back. And we just want to know about the radio in the Charlotte market. Back in your days, I think it was the early 80s is when you came into the market. So it was John Boy and Billy.
We came up in April of 84.
84.
Yeah. So it was with Easy 104 at the time. They had just come from 4 in a row to open up the mornings a little bit more, and we became the personality. There was John Boy and Billy later on. There was Bob and Sherry certainly later on. When I got here, there was still the remnants of Larry Sprinkle on the air after Murphy had gone to Chicago. And then we got Ace and TJ, 2 talented guys, very much so. You had a lot of people on the air, and a lot of different shows. And I guess we were one of them. And a couple of them became quite big. Certainly John Boy and Billy, with over 100 stations at one time in the syndication. And then Bob and Sherry, who were way up there too. And that continues on today. And I think John Boy and Billy are continuing on today. I think the average age in Charlotte, the city of Charlotte, is about 24, 25. It's a young demo. A lot of young people here. And so that changes the listening habits and stuff. Charlotte, we have 2 pro sports teams. We have 1 talk station, WBT. If you don't like them, you got us up here in Hickory, but not everybody listens to Hickory out of Charlotte. You can. It's a big signal. But, so it's kind of a one-horse town. And you notice this, and I'm not running down Charlotte if I sound like I am, but you notice this, the quality of talent. I'm out in Las Vegas here with my father. And Las Vegas, people are either on the way to Los Angeles or on the way from Los Angeles. And it's pretty top-notch entertainment out here. There's nobody saying, are we on? Is it on? It is. When they do a hookup and do a remote, it's boom, boom, boom. We were watching football out here one night when my dad was still living in this house. And he's in an assisted living home now. And so they came off the game with the Raiders and stuff. Live report, went back to the studio on Sunday night, did a little hookup, went back and did a live report, sports report, wrapped up the game, and then back to the studio. And I looked at my dad and I said, you do know your weekend people are better than my Monday through Friday people, or as good as. And it was seamless. It's just a level of professionalism and stuff. And Charlotte's been kind of protected and kind of sleepy and stuff. It's a nice place to live. It's a stepping stone for some people. It's comfortable. I don't know what market it is these days. The market size is based upon how big your population is. So, that sort of thing. It's been a good place for us. I've loved being part of the Charlotte market. And we have a home down in Carolina. We have a home down in South Carolina. Excuse me. Down near York. We're out in the country. And I wish I'd done that about 30, 40 years ago. We have an acre of land in a neighborhood off 321. and just love that, and we're about 17 miles to Lake Wiley, and I love that.
Very good. So what you're talking about is the Charlotte market and old radio versus new radio, a younger demographic. I mean, people are used to streaming and everything else now. And, I'm a fan of talk radio, but do you see that the younger demographic just not with the attention span for it, or?
I don't know if they perceive that as an old thing to do, is to listen to talk radio and stuff. The talk radio demographic is probably 45 up male. You're going to have a few females in there, but we tend to like talk radio, whether that be sports talk, which we do have a good sports station here, FNZ in town, or whatever, or political talk and stuff. I don't do a political show. I mean, I really try to tell myself we do have people that talk politics, and I have to ask a few questions. I don't have all the college in the world. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention there in class, so I'm not the smartest guy on the radio, but I try to at least have a conversation and represent what would be my level of person out there that's maybe wanted to ask this type of question and stuff. And as Mother would say, act like you've been there, boy. Try to sound intelligent. So I try to do that. Excuse me. I got something here. But I have a fairly good command of the English language, and I think I can communicate with people and ask decent questions and stuff. But it's not really a political show. It's kind of a variety show on the radio and just entertain. And the reason being is everybody does the politics, and that's all you're going to get. And then, it's just one thing after another. And, BT does a lot of that too. Pete Callender, I love, great guy. Brett Winterble in the afternoons, I love down there. I listen to sometimes your guys online, Brad, and stuff. I love all the different opinions and different stories and the way people come at it and stuff. I still love to go in and listen to different stations. I'm out here in Las Vegas for a week, and I'm doing the show from out here. And I ran into an old guy that I got into radio with 53 years ago. He's a station owner out here, and I called him, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Scott Gentry." And so, wow, full circle, amazing.
It is. And back on that, we were talking about, life and your health and everything. And I told you, I said, we need to clean up AI because it gave me an inaccurate fact here is talk about your health scare you had not long ago.
I was out playing golf with John Collins, Captain Jim here, does traffic on SOC. And we were down in York County at one of the little courses down there, the goat path. And I had a heart scare that I thought I was having a heart attack. And I seemed to have all the symptoms of a heart attack, but I did not have a heart attack. So I had clamminess. My left arm felt like it was a little numb. It started to get a little bit dark. And I thought, I'm going to join the club here. And Jim's wife is a nurse practitioner down in Pineville. And he looked at me and said, "Get in the cart." And as fast as it came on, it left. So I went through all the tests afterwards and even an echocardiogram, which evidently goes in and takes pictures from all different angles, inside and outside your heart. Right. Basically, I break it down. I'm not a doctor, but I have stayed at the Holiday Inn Express. And, I didn't have a heart attack, but I certainly had all the symptoms. I love the pig, everything about the pig. I love barbecue. I love bacon. I love all those things. I don't love them as much. Moderation in everything. I'm a thin guy, so just because you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy and clean on the inside and stuff like that. So there's certainly things you can do to help yourself along, but that scared me and scared us, certainly. But not a heart attack. If it's being reported like that, I'll talk with AI.
That's right. You need to talk to Perplexity here, right? Chat GPT. So
yes.
Yeah, no. So other than that, any other things that are pivotal moments in your life? So I mean, you've had a very long career, and like I said, Charlotte radio legend, Chuck Boozer. What are the pivotal moments of your life and your career that got Chuck to where Chuck is today?
I guess I took other jobs. I've had some rough moments, and I guess I've persevered more than anything. I've had some rough moments. I became a maintenance problem. That's what they call me. I was a discipline problem. Just like when I was a young boy and stuff. I didn't handle situations in the office as well as I should have. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had some consultants that were going to hire me in Myrtle Beach, and I was working in the car business for John Hendrick at the time, and they called me. And I had been out for 5 years. I was selling Hondas, and I was making better than $100,000 a year. And I was learning how to sell cars through the Hendrick organization. Great place to sell cars and buy a car from the Hendrick Good gosh. So, and John and Rick had always been my friends and stuff. And so I learned how to do that. And that was, that was kind of to be outside of things. I got a call from Myrtle Beach. They said, we saw you answered this thing. We're going to put together a short list. Okay, you want to be on it? Great. Came down to me and another guy. And he was working in the business and I was selling cars, and they invited me down. And then we had a phone call. And on the phone call, they must have had 6 or 7 people on the conference call. And they prefaced it by saying, Chuck, we sound like we're going to be mean here, but we're not trying to be. So if it does sound that way, we apologize. We are truly not trying to be mean to you, but we're going to be pretty direct with you because we're interested in hiring you. And there's some issues we'd like to get out. And he listed, understand you're a hothead. I mean, we got on this call and stuff, and and I took this call.
You created a little bank run.
Right. You can throw things and yell and get mad and blah, 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 and kind of pitch a fit and stuff like that. And he went down through everything, and there was a pause, and I said, I think that's everything. I don't think you missed anything. I think you got it all. And that kind of got a laugh out of the room and stuff. And I said, seriously, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it differently all over again. I didn't handle that well. I did handle some things well, but I didn't handle that well. And I would go differently. I said, I did get challenged a lot as to my knowledge of the room. And I said, I knew pretty quick that I knew how to run the room. I knew how to get people to listen to Chuck on the radio. I knew how to run a morning show. I figured it out, and I loved it. I could make that baby jump. I had great recall for it and stuff. And people wanted to come in there and say, you need to be doing this. And I take them outside and say, it's called Boozer in the morning. It's not called Brad Howard.
That's right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that didn't set well with people. And then people, I got into it in the hallway with a couple of employees and stuff and blah, blah, blah. So you have to, Ace and TJ, you could pass Ace and TJ in the hallway. We shared the building one time together, and you could pass them in the hallway. How's it going? Good. You didn't tie them up. You weren't allowed to tie them up. I got it. Adam Smasher was the same way. Everybody thought Adam was, well, he's not very nice. No, he's not going to give you a free shot at him, okay? We got a lot riding on this thing, and you're not going to get part of it. Not some, somebody who's just out to make a name for themselves these days or get a, 15-second news block. So anyway, that can happen. I never really had a performance problem. Nobody ever said, you suck. But I did have a discipline problem. I was open myself to things in the hallway that I shouldn't have. I got tied up in the hallway with stuff. Mother said this before she died. A lot of things Mom said. She said, you want everybody to like you. So what business do I go into? I go into a business where people come up and say, I don't think you're funny. Have you got any blue medium T-shirts? Honest. They'll ask you for them. Yeah. Oh, I don't like this one. I like blue. That sort of thing. It is who it is. I'm still doing it today. I still love it. Can you cuss on here? Since we're not, we're on radio.
We're on radio. Yeah. Yep.
I don't give a hoot I don't give a hoot as much about what people think. Mother, one of the hardest things Mother told me was, it's so true. It's none of your business what somebody else thinks about you. Wow. It took me a long time to accept that. It's none of your business. Don't worry about it. I got plenty to worry about right here. I really do.
That's right. So that's good. So you're always going to know where you stand with Chuck Boozer.
Hopefully. I'm good with people. I'm good with a preacher who, don't straddle the fence. I'm good with that too. I'm good with friends who don't straddle the fence. Absolutely. And stuff. And you know where you stand with them and stuff. Yeah. Don't let me guess what the mood is. I hope I'm that type of person. Yeah.
All right. Brad Howard, and we'll be right back with radio legend Chuck Boozer. And we're back on Beyond the Blueprint. I'm Brad Howard, and we are still joined by Charlotte radio legend Chuck Boozer. This last segment here, we have about 12 minutes, and I thought, what an opportunity if Chuck could recreate some of his skits and just relive some of your favorite moments in radio.
Boy. They always want to come up with ideas for New Year's Eve and stuff, and we were sitting around one time. The thing I loved about this was, Gary Brooks and I would play golf from time to time, or Jerry Buckner would come up about every third, fourth week and sit down and we'd write out bits. And you could really just think up junk that you wanted to do and do it. You could really be that creative. It was just an open canvas, a blank canvas, to come up with stuff and create, characters or bits and things like this. And so we were looking for something to do for New Year's Eve. You have to be careful because you get into topping yourself, and it's tough. It's tough to really top yourself. Craziness, wilder than this, wilder than that. That got us arrested one time, remember?
I know. We got a bill named after you.
Yes. But we were coming up with ideas for New Year's Eve. And so they wanted me to drink on the air. They wanted me to have a cocktail at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, have another one, and have a state trooper there to measure my blood alcohol content until I'm just happy as can be at 9 o'clock. It'd probably be south by 9 o'clock in the morning and be driven home and put to bed probably. And I thought about that, and I thought, God, I don't want to be drunk at 10 o'clock in the morning unless I really want to be, and I didn't want to be. And so we thought about something else, and Jerry came up with the idea on the Stevie Wonder Intervisions album. Intervisions album is a cut called "Don't Drive Drunk." It's not a hit. Boom, 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 and it's Mothers Against Drunk Drivers Are Mad. And it's a public service song, basically, is what it goes to. Well, we acted like that's the only song we had that morning, that New Year's Day morning. And we played it. I came out 5:35. Hey, Stevie Wonder from Intervisions. Here's Don't Drive Drunk. Came out of the song. Stevie Wonder from Intervisions, 22 before the hour, blah, blah, blah. And people called it about 1:45. You're an idiot. You're a jerk. Oh, this is not funny. You're stupid. This guy, I don't listen to this, blah, blah, blah. We acted like I played it 32 times.
32 times.
And acted like it was a new song every time we came out of it, every time we went into it. And then about 9:15, a guy called, and we taped all the phone calls. They would call in, and we'd tape them in queue and play them back. And this guy called and said, Chuck, I hope everybody hears the message you're trying to get out these days, today, especially about drinking and driving tonight, especially if no other night. If you got a second, he said, my brother and I were coming home about 5 years ago from a New Year's Eve party, and we've been drinking, and I was driving, and I shouldn't have been, and we crashed, and he died. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. I just hope people are listening to what the message you're trying to get across, because I'll never see my brother again. And I just appreciate this so much. I don't know if we played it one more time, but Jerry looked at me afterwards, and I disappeared. I didn't say goodbye. I just disappeared right there at 9 o'clock. That was 9 o'clock. That wasn't planned. That was just one of the things that fell out of the sky. And Jerry looked at me and he said, we couldn't write that better. And I agree. That was the bow on that was the icing on the cake to make that bit go out. We had fun doing radio bits, and Jerry was the love psychic at one time.
The love psychic.
And people called in and they really didn't get it. He was a love psychic, and he'd say, how close are you to Eckarts? And they'd say, there's one in my neighborhood. I see you getting good parking space at Eckarts today. That was the type of mental message that he would get. Anyway, and some of them got that, some of them didn't. We just had fun. It was fun to be goofy, not have an agenda, didn't have a message. It wasn't politicized. There was nothing. We never thought, how can we get a message across here? Didn't come into play. Just to be fun and be goofy. Anybody who read anything more into it than that, no. Sorry.
You just wanted to make people laugh and enjoy their what'd you say, 17 minutes. That's all you get.
That's what we thought we had at the time. Gary Brooks made me take a day off one time. He said, take tomorrow off. And I said, okay. And I said, why? He said, I want you to get in the car and drive in. And he said, while you're driving in, he said, I want you to drive in during rush hour. He said, I want you to look around at everybody, see what they're doing. They're listening to you. Maybe not. And that was great. It was great research. You could kind of look around and look in the cars and stuff, things to talk about,
So when you were driving, did you have them roll the window down and ask them, are you listening to me? No.
No, but we did do a bit called the Horn Psychic that we came up with when I was doing afternoons at what was it, K104, I think at the time, 104 still. Mm. And we would map out. I would play some scary music, and we'd map out, and I would become the Horn Psychic. And I'm going to be able to tell you the kind of car you're driving simply by hearing the sound of your horn, because I am the Horn Psychic. And I'm lowering the lights in the studio and the scary music, ooh, and we get 3 people on the line. And so the first 2 people, we'd say, okay, here's what we do. And they say, okay, we cheat. Whatever the prize is, you win. Oh my gosh, really? Yeah. And so what the bid is here is you need to kind of try to fool Chuck, because the more you try to fool him or whatever, he's going to dance around and stuff. Then he's going to guess it. And we already know what it is. So it's how good an actor you are, you win. So we got to doing this bit so much, I got to know him. You could tell the Dodge horn from the Chevy horn and stuff. The sales department there, Shelley Fleming, came over and said, how do you do this? And I said, growing up, my dad had a junkyard, and I got to know all the horns and stuff like that. Complete lie. And she said, wow. And then Shelley called in on the request line, and we told her, she was one of the contestants. She didn't buy that. She was one of the contestants, and we told her we cheat, and she went, aha, gotcha. And I wanted to say, Shelley, you're on our team. It's a radio bit. Come on, sweetie. Come on, get with us. We're having fun here. Anyway, that's wrapping them up pretty good when you get kind of that kind of stuff going, and you get the sales department fooling them too. That's pretty fun. Yeah.
It is. So, are there any other that stand out with you? anything that you've gone too far? Let me come that back. We've already talked about going too far.
Top being arrested. I'm trying to top that, but I haven't been able to. I tried.
You've tried. You've tried. But no, one of the others or two of the others that are just impactful for you over the years, and then want to talk about some community things.
Really, as far as the standout bits, I think I got to meet a lot of stars. I was a huge, we interviewed Rosie before she became Rosie. We had Dave Coulier from that show. I forget the show and stuff. Joey. It was just we had Jane Kennedy, and oh man, I remember when Jane was a good-looking woman. Good gosh. And when Jane hugged me, I thought, my goodness, that's a tight hug. I hugged her back. She was good looking. If you remember Jane Kennedy, she was really pretty. I was such a fan. They would tell me along the way. I remember I had Billy Joel in the studio with me by myself, and they said, Chuck, do not ask for an autograph.
I hope you asked for it. I hope you asked for the autograph.
Let me ask you all this. How many times are you going to have Billy Joel sitting across from you in your studio? I'm asking for an autograph. Okay?
Absolutely.
Met Herb Albert. Herb Albert was in the studio. I was doing middays in Atlanta. And I turned around one Friday morning, and I thought, that looks like Herb Albert. Turned around again, and it was Herb Albert, 1982. And I reached down and grabbed a piece of letterhead, 94Q, WQXI, and went out there, and he was by himself. And I waited, and he turned around and he said, yes. And I said, Mr. Albert. And he said, yes. And I said, my name's Chuck Boozer. I said, I'm a little peon over here in the AM. That's my room. And I said, I just noticed you were here. And I said, I'm a big fan. I said, I think we had every Tijuana Brass album, my folks, and I said, I just think you're a genius and just want to come out. And he said, Chuck, how nice of you to say those things. What can I do for you? And I said, do you have time for an autograph? And he said, absolutely. To who? And he wrote, to Chuck and Lindy, all my love, best wishes, Herb Albert, 1982. And I shook his hand, probably a 3-4 minute exchange. Just fantastic, just fun. One of my heroes, still going strong today. Just played Charlotte a while back with Lainey Hall, who he's still married to. Still blowing the horn.
Wow.
Yep.
So on that, your philosophy is be visible and make a difference off air. How have you done that? What are your passions? I
always thought once I started making some money and stuff, I signed in 89, I signed a 5-year deal with Easy Communications for almost $1 million. And once I started making some decent money, and all along the way, I was part of, if somebody wanted, I thought I made good money along the way and stuff. You sign a good contract like that, and that can sock it away. But along the way, I always thought if somebody wanted me to come out and be part of their carnival, their festival or whatever, and lend my name for that cause or something, I thought that was all part of it. I thought you kind of owed that to it, to give back on that side of it and stuff, is be involved and help people and get the word out. That's what you're there for, is to help them get the word out for their event and stuff. I still like doing that today. I'll speak in a heartbeat someplace, obviously.
Any of the charities that you're still engaged with today that you think have made a huge impact on the community?
I was Special Olympics. I was involved with the North Carolina Mental Health Association. I was a spokesperson for them for years because I was full blown crazy. But certainly an advocate for that, for people to speak up and get help and stuff. I remember I spoke up one time. They paid me at the Mint Museum, and I came in and I said, it was all doctors and stuff, and I was the guest speaker, and they paid me, and I said, first time tonight, I have put so much into this industry, into your what y'all do for a living. I've kept you alive all these years. I'm getting a little bit of it back tonight. They're paying me to talk to y'all. And then we did that and walked out that door that night at the Mint Museum, and David Haynes interviewed me, and they went home and played it, and I think they did 6 minutes in the 11 o'clock news on how crazy Chuck used to be. And Lindy said, oh my God, you're going to rip you apart tomorrow. And it turned out to be just the opposite. Everybody really embraced it and stuff like that, and it became such a positive and stuff like that. So open book, I guess, with my life and stuff. I think at this stage of the game, I think it's who you got, not what you got. And I love the what you got, but it's who you got. If you got your family, if you got your people in your life today, hug on them. You don't know how fast this thing rolls.
That's right. That is so true. No regrets, right? So live life, no regrets. Do it today, yep. And because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. So you've you are Charlotte radio legend, Chuck Boozer.
I don't know about that, but that's nice of you, Brad. I'm going to get you.
I'm going to keep posting that. I'm going to get you. No, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on. We appreciate years of friendship and, everything. And the stories, when I was preparing for this, I grew up in the car with my parents driving around listening to you in the morning. So all these stories, I remember some, not all, and some of them are hilarious. And there's some that I can't tell on the air that, because it is a family show. So
yes, absolutely. Still. Yeah. Well, loved your mom and dad. Hope your mom's doing okay. Lindy and I think about her all the time and stuff like that. Loved your dad so much. And I treasure you and your dad's friendship and your mom. Y'all been great to the Boozer family all the years, and we appreciate that. And I got the feeling your dad was a Chuck Boozer fan, but your dad is a fan of everybody, not just Chuck Boozer. Your dad was a cheerleader for everybody. He was that kind of guy, really super guy. Ain't many Rick Howards, I'm going to tell you. That's all there is to it.
I appreciate that. So one more plug. Where can people listen to you every day now?
I'm on Monday through Friday. I'm on WHKY. That comes out of Hickory. That's 1290 a.m. You can pick it up down in Lake Norman and down through the area. It covers into Iredale County. 1290 a.m., 102.3 FM, or stream it at WHKY.com. It's got a pretty good stream. I'm 9 to noon Eastern time. And we have a fun show. It's pretty fun and not quite as goofy as Chuck used to be or crazy. I am older.
No bogus rumors of the day?
No bogus rumors of the day. No, probably not. Oh. Probably not. Not these days anyway.
I should do one tomorrow. Come up with something fun.
Grandfather these days, still married to the same girl for 42 years. My kids are 42 and 37, Ryan and Christina. And I have a daughter-in-law, Grace, and my grandson, Trey. So pretty lucky. And
one last question before we sign off. Chuck Boozer, is that your real name?
Yeah, it is. Charles Warren Boozer is my real name. When we came back, I was at the racetrack. David Haynes says they wanted to interview me and stuff, and we had a commercial running that said I was a Boozer from a family of Boozers, blah, 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 with a silhouette on the wall, kind of poking at the, anonymous thing. The Mothers Against Drunk Drivers didn't think it was funny, thought I was making fun of a stage name. And David Haynes asked me, what's your real name? And I said, Charles. And he said, what's on the birth certificate? I said, Charles Warren Boozer. And the interview changed at that moment. David didn't have I don't think David had a thought of, what if his name really is Charles Warren Boozer? And that's what it is. So it's on my birth certificate. Not really. I was always Chuck, never Warren, never Charles, but always Chuck or Booze. If you have a last name like Boozer, it's Booze, Booze Hound, Boozerama, Boozemeister. Good Lord.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thanks for asking me. I appreciate this. I really do.
No, I appreciate it more than you know. So again, Chuck Boozer, Charlotte radio legend Chuck Boozer, and this is Beyond the Blueprint. And we will see you next Friday.